Looks great. Sort of. Yeah, you know. That works all right. Yeah, John asked me to do some covers tonight. So.
Like it's not, I don't think.
Huh? Yeah, it is. So I'm going to do covers of some record reviews that were done in 1970 by J.R. Young in Rolling Stone for Live Dead, the GTO's Permanent Damage, and B.B. King's The Thrill Is Gone 45. J.R. Young was one of my favorite Rolling Stone writers. He's sort of a mysterious guy. I tried to find out any info I could from Grill Marcus, but Grill didn't know anything. Nobody knows anything about what happened to him. I don't know. Anyway, his reviews are great. Marcia Steinberger and her best friend, Starglow Peterson, had hitchhiked into Mill Valley from Sacramento in the early afternoon and were now sitting in Sheila Titterwell's front room on the hillside of Mount Tam. Sheila lived with some guy neither Marcia nor Starglow knew, but about whom they had heard nice things. He was at work now and would be home shortly. In the meantime, the three young lovelies were smoking some very potent dope and were sitting on Sheila's floor watching the orange sun go down. By dusk, they were all 4 joints to the cosmos, and everything was a barrel of laughs. "And that crazy fart is going to be home any minute," Sheila laughed as she took the toilet paper roll from Starglow. "You know what he does? He comes screaming up that hill each night with Hugh Jardin, hollering as loud as he can like an asshole, 'Get out the pipe! Put on the Dead! And spread!' And like the cat is stark raving naked by the time he hits the front door." Sheila laughed again and shook her head, then deeply inhaled on the roll. "Put on the Dead and spread?" Marcia looked puzzled. Sheila raised one slim finger, held her breath a few seconds longer, then exhaled slowly. "Right, as in the Grateful Dead and Legs. Real George thinks it's the greatest to..." She was interrupted as the quiet of the early evening disintegrated around them in a confusion of sound and squalor as the high whine of a VW wound down to a quick halt, and a huge voice called up to them, "Put on the Dead and spread, 'cause I'm loaded and ready to go!" "It's Real George now," Sheila said, jumping to her feet. "Excuse me." She pulled her sweater up over her head and off her arms, then slipped out of her jeans. She was naked in a jiffy. "It's been like this for a week now, almost 2. She quickly crossed the room to the tape deck, threaded a reel, and turned the machine on. The 2 visiting girls peered at her for a long moment, then turned their attention to the strange shadow figure charging up the front steps, leaving a trail of clothes strewn wildly behind him. He was going like 60. "Ever since he got that album," Sheila said as she opened the bedroom door, "Real George likes nothing better than to fuck to the Grateful Dead. It makes him on fire," she winked. "It's groovy." Sheila then disappeared into the darkness of the bedroom. And just as the Dead began Dark Star, Real George hit the front door with his naked, pink and hairy body and crashed through into the living room. Da-da! Marcia's and Starglow's mouths fell open as the fleeting vision swept through the room for a brief moment before disappearing along with Sheila in the darkness. "Ah," someone said in there as Marcia and Starglow exchanged quizzical glances. "Ah." The music grew louder. "That's far out," Starglow said. "Very far out," Marcia nodded. The two girls turned around and looked back out into the hills. Already, lights were beginning to come on as the land grew blacker. "Gee, I wish I had a date tonight," Marcia finally said. When the first sign of spring burst upon Fullerton in late November, the local kids decided, according to the sunny circumstances, to bypass winter altogether that year. "It's all fucked up," Paulie told his mother as he dropped his books on the table one warm Monday evening. Paulie's silent friend Mark stood next to him, regarding the mother as Paulie poured them each a glass of lemonade. "We don't need winter." "But you can't just do away with it." His mother frowned as she handed the sixth graders some cookies. "I mean, you..." Paulie turned and gave her a severe look. "What do you mean, Mother?" She lowered her eyes, as all good ladies did when Paulie or any of his friends gave them the look. "Well, I mean, Paulie, that winter is too important to too many people. It means many different things to many different people. Important things. Christmas, New Year's, sledding, fireplaces." She felt the situation slipping away from her. Her eyes shifted about unsteadily. "You know, Paulie, I have many good memories of winter, like growing up in Philadelphia, a teenager on..." Paulie cut her off like a razor through hot lather. "A teenager on Bandstand? A big TV favorite? Steve Rossi, Franny Giordano, 16 and all that other crap?" "Yes, Mother, I know. I've heard it all before, and frankly, I'm getting a bit sick of it." "Oh, Paulie, I don't understand you sometimes anymore." She sighed and sat down exhausted. "What happened to you? You were such a nice little boy when you were taking acid. But now..." "Shut up, Mother!" And he suddenly snapped out a smart left jab that caught her squarely in the forehead, splitting the smooth white skin to the bone. "You ain't messing with my head no more." Her dark eyes registered nothing but fear for a moment as a trickle of blood crept from the small wound. Her shoulders rose momentarily and then fell with great violence as she buried her face in her hands, sobbing out of control. "Let's go, Mark," Paulie growled, and he ran off through the stainless steel utility room. Mark, however, lingered a moment. He had more on his mind as he stood looking down at his best friend's mother. He watched her long body quiver, and then in one insane motion, stolen from the late movies, he grabbed the woman by her Philadelphia ponytail, wrenched her tear-stained face up to his, and pressed his small mouth on her trembling lips. It was over in a second. "Great lemonade, Mrs. Giamotto," Mark said, and taking the last cookie, he bounded from the room. Mrs. Giamotto sat for many minutes afterwards, struck deaf and dumb. Her face still inclined toward the ceiling, her eyes half closed. Speed, she thought. It must be speed. But she didn't really know for sure. She only knew what she read in the papers, and she didn't know anything for sure. That much she knew. And at that, she knew she was even more afraid of knowing it was terrifying. An hour later, however, after a long, hot bath, Mrs. Giamotto sat semi-relaxed on the couch with a Coke in the den, watching the afternoon soaps and drying her thick hair under the professional beauty jet hair dryer. It was a huge, bulbous machine that jammed down over her entire head and shoulders, leaving only her face and naked shoulders exposed. She wore only a bathrobe. The great, unwieldy machine also made hearing next to impossible under the roar of the jets. When out of nowhere, Polly's face loomed large in front of her, her heart leapt up in her throat. She suddenly saw herself in some sort of do-it-yourself electric chair. Polly, however, was smiling down at her, his lips moving with a deliberate and certain ease. She couldn't hear him, but she saw his eyes were calm and reassuring, narrowing at times in a manner of genuine sincerity she hadn't seen in 2 years. He seemed to be apologizing, agonized and grimacing, at times as if angry at himself, overwhelmed perhaps by his own heinous acts. But then she couldn't be too sure. He brought his face down very close to hers, his eyes fluid, a humble, crooked smile spreading on his lips as he kissed her bandaged wound softly. Sweet, she thought. Polly stood up again, and from behind him he brought a thin package, obviously a record, and he placed it on her lap. He smiled, pleased with his present. He nodded and gestured at her to open it. Mrs. Giamotto slid the album from the bag and looked it over carefully. He knows I like music, she thought. And they call it puppy love, just because we're 17. But the cover didn't ring any recognizable bells in her musical index. The GTOs, she said in a much too loud voice, that she assumed was normal under the incessant rush of air. Very nice, a pretty cover. Although what the strange debauchery on the jacket actually meant was difficult for her to ascertain. Polly nodded wildly, a strange, masked face taking possession of his features, his wet eyes darting as he backed toward the door. Very nice, Polly, I like it, she shouted again. Are there any Paul Anka songs on it? You know I like him. But when she looked up again, her Polly was gone. Polly? She glanced around, the room was still empty. Empty until her eyes stopped at the window. And there she saw two strange and familiar eyes, silent eyes, peering in and over the windowsill. Polly, she called out, but no one answered. When Bud had been an undergraduate at Oregon, he and Phil Hill, an older fraternity brother of his, had ridden back and forth to his folks' place in Sacramento innumerable times. That was back in '62 and '63, and the two guys in those years had learned every white tile wayside diner from Wolf Creek to Live Oak. They had become good friends. Phil was smart, deep into phenomenology and African lit even then, and other such things. And Bud liked to think he was hot on Phil's intellectual trail. One night, as Phil pushed his old '55 Pontiac through the dark mountain passages outside of Dunsmuir, he glanced over and asked if his younger friend knew anything about sound. Bud, an American lit major, of course didn't know much, except it moved in waves. Right, Phil nodded. Now dig this. If those waves begin, like now when I'm talking, what's to stop them as long as they have an elastic medium to ride upon? Doesn't it stand to reason that each sound ever created is still moving somewhere, but is merely beyond the realm of the human ear, like the proverbial tree in a forest, like it's defected off the earth in a matter of seconds, gone into outer space, kind of like Lost in Space. Bud frowned at this because he really had no idea as to the feasibility of the hypothesis. He also had difficulty determining when Phil was putting him on. I don't know, Phil. I guess so. Then listen to this. Phil continued. When I drove across... Oh, man. Oh, well. This is fucked up. When I drove across the country last year, something really weird happened. He paused as he passed an old pickup. It was late, about 2 in the morning. Perfectly clear out in the Nebraska flatlands, I turned on the radio and heard, now dig this, a program that was from the late 40s. Not a recording of great moments or anything like that, but the real thing. Bud frowned again, but Phil nodded and went on. I mean, I think somehow that radio wave or beam and its outward movement collided with something that reflected it back. Somehow the car receiver picked it up and broadcast it. Are you shitting me? No, Phil laughed. It really happened. It was like walking backwards. Harry Truman was the president on that highway. Gordon Jenkins, Doc Blanchard, John Garfield, Stalin. All this weird stuff piped into the car. There was a pause. Ever happen again, Bud asks. No, never happened to anyone I know, but I'm like always waiting, like on nights like this. It's something to think about. Bud thought about it, but didn't know what to think. He didn't know to this day about Phil's story. Phil once had told him, Bud, that someone had pictures, almost a film of Christ on Calvary. The pictures had been discovered buried, wrapped in a parchment tube. What it was, so Phil's stories went, was a series of rabbit retinas. Someone had lined up a row of rabbits facing the cross, then chopped their heads off in quick succession. The final retinal imprint was somehow made permanent in each eye. Thus, when all the retinas were lined up, there was a pictorial stuttering of Calvary. The story had bothered Bud for a long time. That, however, was years ago. Bud hadn't seen Phil since '64. Bud now was a book salesman. For the first time in many years, he found himself in late February arriving over the same mountain road he and Phil had taken those many times before. It was night again, and the road had changed little. Bud pushed the button of his radio and waited for some music, but he got only static. He remembered how hard it was to pick up anything in the mountains. He slowly turned the tuning knob, nothing but static, until slowly the dial seemed to ease into and lock onto a strangely haunting tune. A lonely guitar rising somewhere from the past, and then a full, plain voice. The thrill is gone, the thrill is gone away. There was something about it, an unknown quality conjured up from the past that told Bud something. A song for long driving nights in the dark mountains, calm and clear as the lush strings rolling gently under the full white moon above and the silver road ahead. It moved on endlessly, soothing his mind, and Bud thought that, yes, here it was again, a single beam from out of the sky. Vibrational energy, a wave again trapped before beginning its second stellar flight. And he found himself taking deep breaths, trying to inhale it all. The sinuous and sharp strings, the fragile tones, that voice. It slowly began to fade, and Bud reached for the volume and tried to keep pace with the dying sound, but he couldn't hold it. It still fell away as Bud reached full volume. Then the sound was lost altogether. Bud thought he had lost the beam. Crap, he muttered. All right, baby. BB King and the thrill is gone. The radio suddenly boomed at an incredible volume that almost knocked Bud's head off. And now we going to the news, baby, at 12:32. Wolfman Jack from San Diego. And the news was today's news. And the beam was just as powerful, not interstellar. And Bud then snapped the radio off in a half second and sat quite still for a few moments, still slightly shaken, his ears ringing. Then he smiled and rapped the steering wheel with his knuckles. That Phil, he laughed. What a card.
That's what record reviews should be.
This is a Michael McClure's Love Lion book. Oh, fucking lover, roar with joy, I, lion man. I groan, I am, upon the cone-shaped breasts and tossing thighs, and send my thoughts into a blacker universe of sugar. Thy face is a strained, sheer heart twisted to fine beauty by thy coming. It is 1,000,000 miles from toes to thighs. Our bodies beat like the ultimate movie, slowed to blurs of two meat clouds becoming one, and the undersoul is joined by kissing mouths. Oh, and I am some simple cub with plump muscles loving immortality. The sheets are white, the pillows soft. Jesus, how I hate the middle course. Thy eyes, cloud, cloud, cloud we writhe within, of spirited meat and self-souling flesh. I am not your mesh, nor you my ultimate, but I believe it. I believe thy hand is palm of velveteen, of green or black or rose, and thy nail is loving claw pressed upon my rib, that burns more pure, hail the brighter truth. Damn confusions, hail the black imagined wine we dive within with bodies wound together. Praise to your slender arms and sleekness. Joy to thy slim legs and welcoming body. Eternal honey melting upon thy spirit. 10 seconds of a flesh adorn thy soul, and that is plenty. This brown and white inferno of pain and joy and work and breath and agony and pleasure is a mattressed flower. I strive too hard and damn the gentleness. Peace. Peace and silent quiet air that stirs in wave shapes. A universe of wine where ripples are speaking faces. No, they cannot be, but here, the huge souls singing as they drift to that barrier place before an outer place that lies the body soul creates in peace. Lies, lies, lies. But fluids dripping in the body make music. Thoughts dive far into the night and return with cries that are similar. I know they are there and we will join them. But I doubt it. The warm hand is peace. The large lays there, my head. White bread gleams upon heavy tables. No, that's another long time gone. Dahlias and fern are drenched with the juice of peaches. No, that's gone too. Beat on white walls to let their spirit out. The royal beauty of the higher thought and energy project themselves where there is muscle. The sets and velvet curtains are reflectors of the soul's and muscle's self-invention. God damn the sets, the furniture and curtains, and bless them and love them. Bless the bones and skeleton thy body swings upon. Without them we would dream in space or be nothing. The smoothness of thy toes, thy chin and brassy mane are parts of love set free and manifest thy ambassage. Oh, bloody purity constrained, stomp out the lie and swing. deal the death urge with a higher card. There's no such thing. Love and blood and sugar are the same. Ideals and hope are tame compared to what's within my heart. Odes are transient breath. Oh, you perfect, perfect. You light-made flesh in sacred paradise of room and floor and plaster wall and steam and vase and oxygen and book and pen and ink and glass and cup and bed and sweeping plant. Yet where is gentleness? Here! There are no molecules. This moment shall never die. This is pure blue perfect. And are they lies? Can vision be mistruth? Can I deny it from a damasked world before I feel the future breathe? Red and white, rose and lily, blood and cheek, thy tanned flesh is good enough, but I am torn and yearn. There's no pain. This is solid concrete pleasure. Your breast upon my knee in generosity. The nets you set for bliss are baited with their key. Oh, bliss bait. Beyond the cloud we make and in it too is vacuum of soul made up, of spirit flesh transcendent. Rave on, rave, but listen, still the senses for an echoing cry of joy. All music is soul and spirit sound of peach-shaped flesh, or anything that never dies. No, I've said that before and gained the key to liberty. Let joy and liberty and love die also. Rise up, virtues. Heart, chest, shoulder, mammal feeling. Let there be mountains where arms are waterfalls that splash. I, free of you but coming to your music. We, rolling in a cloudy bed, free and clean. The blackness awaits us as we turn to spirit. In 10 trillion years, by chance and luck, we rise up to kiss again, remembering truth is love. Yes, that's all for a new beginning. Prepare the body for an afterthought that lasts eternally as flash. No, I cannot care. The intellect passes through the window and penetrates the mists of another timelessness that causes mouth to wet and makes spirit tremble. Hear, listen, feel, it's all clear. Here, we are a new beginnings of a new thing, becoming fresher. We do it now, make morals of memory, of meat and nail upon a thing that may be changing to last forever. Stars and nebulae, the same material, and faces changing under me from blonde to dark. You see the nets of pleasure to help create my soul, and bliss never passes. Flowers split the ice, blue, black, and rose. They rise to honor us, no, not honor us, to make the same melody and cry as I and all creatures. There is no matter that may be weighed and counted. Not ounce nor gram is heavier than newborn love and bodies. Cock disappears within thy love. Unpreciseness tortures me, but inside of thee I flow outward, and measures become a horror. Thy moist warmth and rustling eyes remind me that there is no size, except before my hands and fingertips that meet beneath my back. O wheel of love that rolls upon the pillows, haired mount and nipples smooth and creased. Love my soul, flesh cave for my protection. Love soul, flesh cave for my protection. Thou we thura. Each word or act or deed or hate or petty jealousy, a plunge, a paw print unrepeatable and unsubtractable. Oh no thou, far, not yet. Not yet do we return to where we've never been. Do waves dot form black faces, bare and we remember selves. Beast profiles of pre-primordial substance, singing immortal melodies of forgotten questions, rise and smile at one another. A place before and after free men absorbed society. By eyes and thighs and girls snarl of sexual bliss set free, a groaning tear made whole with shout, a kiss? Yes, damn the laws and damn the rules and systems, even damn the music through the floor. Reach out and smile and striving. Be here, soul and spirit. Soul is an invention. Bodies, warmth on warmth, created one beginning, and repeating they break down the armor of the universe. We join and fly and bless, unique and higher, knowing purer, truer things. But how did I arrive here? Hand on soft hand and smile on smile. Where were you in my beginning unless we are singing later? Smile in hand, living dream on far flesh, living bath of ever transcendent star of flesh. I don't believe it, though the mind snake furls itself into the night. I am not your plight, nor you my ever. There are not fields that counteract each other, nor relativities. Truth is not immortal, but its shape is, and though it changes with the body's spirit, it is not a relativity. There is you and I in each other, and this flower of energy and bliss and pleasure and nurtured hate becoming something else we lay upon another's body, pretending that we know all things from our void and then forgetting it. We spray becoming blooms of beauty. We swirl with grace into a blue-black mist with thoughts returning in the images that no man or sane person will deny. Not thought, no, not thought, but pictures made into a cry of future physics. The butterfly is fruiting body of the plasm sent forth by the equal lion is permanent. A mammal, beating on his love, a soul to accompany his spirit. With hot blood, the body is the spirit, but bacterium is sheer technician of his eternity. And all here now, immortalities. Life is not thought, not intellect, but perfect creation. And another thing, there is no word for, nor will there ever be but in lovely raving. What is that other thing? What drama? What sword and blood and purring and touch and taste and lick and smell that burned in rounded youth? Blah! An estate of majesty, a perfect tit, an inspired delicacy of sense, an outburst of a universe beyond conceived of molecules of matter or of any other kind of mechanical repetition of predestined acts is pain. We destroy the finite system. The softness of my arms against thy wetness, thy writhing rubbings against solidity, that gives and challenges with unsure present seeking bliss in flow of energies within the lattice of ourselves. Oh, ah, thee in smiling silence. Cries of love, becoming soul, or searching soul or spirit, already lighting the future quiet. When there are flesh wavelets of enlightened particles of self, called cells awakening, the purity of a newborn and flowing system, eyes and tongues kissing, striped coverlets in air, the finality of quiet is torn like paper, in consciousness of light is light, can flesh pass over? No, it cannot. May intellect have speed and become the universe like light does? Will it then create itself and shower meat upon our bones and give us space to swing in? You are not closed in such a trap. Such thought is metaphor, a happy prologue to the drama of revival that is continuation. Life or intellect or soul is no perfection. Meat on flesh is not a mechanism. Pillows sprayed with flowers of silk, put there by hand, and soul's love of decoration. Helix corridors of mental flight, rejuvenated by new solidity and not the shit of matter. Hail thee, 3D reality made manifest thyself's message to me. Revolutionary clouds, fiery within us, and what peace of joyous sweetness in the farther away the night, echoing nothing, nothing, nothing more than what I send there, thy making here, where thou art, oh, the blossom of smoothest flesh beneath me, and now and then in future time that we deny, and touch with faintest white tip of finger, that kiss on shoulder takes wing and flies to there announcing our proceeding. shining when we blend our flesh in. Ah, no and yes. The surface of the teeth is an illusion, for there are grottos lovely and infinite as a perfect toe that presses to my back or neck in love, and pressure too is an illusion when thou singing sheer flesh. We know it, they know it, listen. Nor is there they, but thou only and I. Where are thy and my perfect ones? Here we flail and stamp ourselves in gentleness. Wave meets our clear imagination, made into thee and I, from selves of futurity, from a pool that never is, and that is happiness. The night beckons, we close our ears and eyes, praise. The twirl of pleasure fills what is here. The arms and calves spasm and shakes themselves at unmade destinies. Separate thoughts leap into the dark to create a universe we do not need nor care to summon. Sure of what is here and happening, we sing a melody of cloudy flesh we kiss and dream, believing, lick and love. Sureness of eyes that flash anyway. The beings that we prefigure are not loftier than we, but are ourselves, bathed in drunken oneness indescribable. Denying soul and spirit's honor is a gesture. Denying deity makes clear the fire. Thy breasts and hair and skin velvet thighs are clearer to the consciousness I find. I see all things from an edge, in unimpassioned contemplation, and yet that consciousness melts down the universe like mercury or water, and it flows to and fro, me making love that sprang from thee to me, and passes I to thou, and it becomes the flesh we recognize. Wine is that which fills the night beyond the farthest touch. It's sugar, made into a nebular ocean beyond the barrier of photons that hypnotize our eyes. We touch upon that place, packed so tight with bliss, there is not even room for light to fly there. Consciousness assumes that passion is flesh, and separates itself to gain a knowledge, knowing that if flesh is passion, the intellect is trick, and it raises high the device as instrument, meat instrument of imagination. Its purpose is to touch the night. The unimpassioned gives way in exuberance and admits that it is highest when it touches they, and has its meaning. The drama is performed, and scene and act make evident shortcomings of the highest view. For a rose-shaped nipple may be immortal more than we ever knew or dared admit. When universe melts into a silver flow, and the pictures in the mind grow many color, the view or consciousness gives way. I love thee, and thou art solid touch upon my ghostliness that I believe, and name time after time with name of view or vision, but thou art there. Affirmative not by mental state or only beauteous word, but in soft arm manifest and moistened lip and beating heart and padded bone and hair and tissue. When I believe myself with thee, or after thy departing, I am more inspired by what I do not